want to thank those of you who joined with us in this time of devotion. I appreciate those of you who've responded with a word or let me know that you are watching this. I appreciate that very much. Tonight, the parable is Luke 18, 1 through 8. There are many wonderful parables in the Gospel of Luke. So profound are the parables. But I have to confess to you that the parable that we're looking at tonight or today is not necessarily my favorite story that Jesus told. It's a parable of the widow and the unjust judge. I really like the moral of the story. The moral of the story is pray always and never lose heart. But one of the things that bothers me about this parable is the two characters that illustrate this great truth of praying always and not losing heart. One of the characters is a widow. I suppose we can understand something of the way that she acted because in the first century, women had very little power. It was a men's world. And a widow without a husband particularly had no power. She had a grievance and she was bringing it before the judge. And the way she did it was by annoying and pestering the judge. Every time he met in his courtroom that day, you could hear the widow outside saying, "Give me justice, give me my justice." At night, when he sat down to dinner, I suspect that she was right outside the house shouting, "Give me justice." Finally, after annoying the judge said, "Okay, I'm going to give you what you want. Not because I really feel that you should have this, but because, frankly, I am tired of your annoying and pestering me." The second character is that judge. We're told in the story that the judge didn't like God and he didn't like other people. What a wonderful person to know. I don't even know whether he liked himself. If he didn't like God and didn't like other people, maybe he just liked the position that he had as a judge. But this woman annoyed him, pestered him. "Give me my vindication, give me justice." And he said, "I'm just tired of being annoyed. I'm going to give this woman what she wants." Now, frankly, these two characters in the story are a little difficult for me to relate to. Again, I can understand the widow, no power. The only power that she had was to annoy the judge. But the judge who didn't like God, who didn't like people, who maybe even didn't like himself, frankly, I have trouble calling a judge like that Your Honor. Sometimes when people have read this parable, they have said to themselves, well, the judge represents God. But this judge is so unlike the God that I have imagined and that I have preached all of my life. Not a God who doesn't like people, not a judge who doesn't even like God, God's self, but this judge, finally, who is worn down and who says, I will give you what you want. I'm tired of being annoyed. Not the God that I preach. The God that I preach is a God who is open to God's children, a God who is in love with God's children, a God who shows us what love is, how to love other people, how to love our own selves, and especially how to love God. Not the judge in the story. That is not the God that I relate to in my life. I know God is mystery. I know God is beyond us. I know we can't comprehend all that God is, but the amazing thing is that we are dealing with a God who is not only beyond us, but also a God who is with us. In the difficult circumstances of life, in the joys of our lives, we are worshiping a God who is always mystery and beyond us, but a God who is with us in all the things that we face. For a number of years, William Sloane Coffin was the pastor of the iconic Riverside Church in New York City. When his son was 24 years old, his son was killed in a tragic automobile accident. Coffin said, the first heart that was broken was God's. He was preaching about a God who relates to our lives, who cares about us, for whom prayer is more than just mouthing words. It is a part of a relationship with God. Sometimes saying words, sometimes being silent, sometimes listening, sometimes just thinking about this God who cares for us so much. This is the God that I have found is the God for my own life and the God that I want to come through my life to others. A God who cares deeply about the things that you and I have to face. Things sometimes are difficult. Just a moment, I want to speak about the final vulnerability that all of us have, and that is the vulnerability of death. There is no way in which we are going to be able to pray always and not lose heart. There will be a time when each of us comes to the end of this chapter. What do I believe? I believe God. I believe prayer. I believe all of this is rooted in the love of God. And this love does not stop when our lives stop here. I don't know all that heaven is, but what I do believe is it's a place where we no longer have those things that bite into our lives, like anger and resentment, is a place where we're reunited with the people whom we have loved. It is a place where we finally know the fullness of God's love, and we know God in the fullness of that relationship. When I was in Augusta, I visited a woman in the nursing home. She had just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. We talked for a moment. She said, I spend a lot of time talking with God. There are not many people to talk with here unless somebody comes to visit with me. And I want you to know that in talking with God, I never lose hope, no matter what happens. She said, Pastor, when you have my funeral and you're at the graveside, I want the last thing that you say is, I want you to tell everybody, with God, we don't lose hope. She said, do you promise to do it? And I said, I promise. Heart is the hope that holds us. Heart is the hope of the Christ who holds us up in all the things we face in our lives. Amen.